We have been talking to artists all around the world to kind of facilitate as they launch their projects, and it's a different dynamic, I believe, at this point. I think there's an awareness of what blockchain can do for art. Once you have that scarcity, and I always feel compelled to explain that. Before blockchain, you didn't have the scarcity because, personally, I feel that digital artists kind of got the raw end of the deal, if you ask me, because the work was out there, but it wasn't properly monetized or monetizable, because again, access is not the same as ownership, and that's what confuses so many people. At least with music, you had eventually you found a system to actually monetize it properly. With movies, the same, but with 2D or digital art specifically, it was very difficult. Like, you end up with a system where everyone enjoys the art. Some may actually misappropriate or use or steal the art, but then the onus is on the artist to go and pursue action, which is just not scalable. Like, that's a terrible place to be at. So I actually really believe this change with blockchain and NFTs empowers, course corrects the path that we were on before, and it empowers digital artists everywhere. And it's a necessity. It's not a whim. It's actually something that is greatly needed.
No, and I think this is a huge topic around blockchain, is the way that it centers artists in the conversation and also changes some of the economics, where what you just mentioned about having to pay $100 to mint a work is part of a larger story of artist economics, where the artists have to invest and pay to make work before they know what they're going to get. So I want to talk more about the economics around NFTs and this idea of whether there's democratization or kind of financialization and how those work in concert. But Harm, I want to go back to something that you just said, and Saskia, I'd like to bring you in on this too, which is you raised the issue of the art, this kind of elephant in the room issue of the aesthetics of NFTs. And I think this is really the story of democratization. How does it work if anyone can make an object? Do we believe in kind of popular taste around work? Many reasonable people could disagree about the taste around an object. So at a time when it's still, I think, revolutionary at the stage of 1995 development of NFTs, to talk about them as art. Harm, do you want to say more about that within the program of Left Gallery and within your own experience? And Saskia, I know you've really been focused on that in your work with Kenny and otherwise, so we'll come over to you in just a second. But how, what's the real conversation around the artistic value of an NFT? What are we not talking about that we should be talking about?
I guess the answer is it depends. There are there are many different artists, and there are many different aesthetics, and also not all NFTs are art or intended as art, and that's fine. With Left Gallery, there is a certain aesthetic. I think it's kind of referring often to blockchain itself, or it's referring to the medium-specific properties of an artwork. Also, we sell software, and you don't often see executable files or screensavers as NFTs. The landscape seems to be mostly JPEGs indeed, or maybe sometimes videos, which is also enforced by the platforms like Foundation. For example, you can only upload a movie that is shorter or less than 50 megabytes. So that makes a very specific space to play within. We noticed that it's extremely difficult to actually offer things like ebooks or software, because all these file formats are vendor locked. You cannot just deploy an app. You need to go through some app store, or you need, like Amazon doesn't even allow you to easily install an EPUB. So even though the beauty of the NFT side of it in terms of ownership and sales, there is so much more to fix in terms of file formats, because our mobile phones are completely closed, our ebook readers are completely closed. macOS requires you to code sign an application, and they can just censor whenever they want. So that is not really an answer to your question.
Well, I think you're taking it in a structural direction, so less about the kind of symbolic or aesthetic impact of the work and more about the structures in which we're able to make work. And I completely agree with you. This is the problem of when your computer says to you, would you like to update the software today or tomorrow? And those are the only two options. We live in closed internet systems, and blockchain, whether it's the user interface question or more generally, can require a high degree of facility with programming, right? And I mean, some people can, get a MetaMask wallet and buy work, but so I fully respect that you don't want to answer the aesthetic question. We heard you, Harm. But Saskia, what would you say to that in terms of how you've parsed that in your collaborations with artists? How has the aesthetics of the work, I mean, being in your booth yesterday, that's kind of electrifying with kind of surround imagery, how has that been for you?
Yeah, I would like to answer in a more general way. It is, of course, not every NFT is art, and of course, not every art is good art. But having, our gallery works 30 years in this field, and also before NFTs, there were questions about artworks in the kind of, is this art? Oh, my 3-year-old son can do this, etc., etc. And it is clear that in the field there is a lot of art from amateurs. Let's put it like this. And I would like to see it as a positive thing. It is, Joseph Beuys said, every man's an artist, every human is an artist, and the entire NFT culture brings this to the forefront once again. But of course, our role is to bring in our expertise, and we offer this to the artists that want to work with us. It's experience in aesthetic judgment, and sometimes also experience in how to mediate artworks to the audience. And yes, so I would say that the aesthetic judgment is a judgment that is not new, or is not. We don't have to apply it only to NFT. It's a general judgment, and there's artists that we think are interesting and aesthetically interesting who make NFTs, and there are a lot of artists that make screensavers. Let's put it like this. Yeah.
Which, I mean, and I think that you never know, today's screensaver could be next year's masterpiece, right? We're all figuring that out. Yeah.
Well, because it is expensive, it doesn't need to be a masterpiece, Christian